to get started?
Let's do it.
All right, so my first question for you is that the film Radio Flyer sparked your interest in acting, and now with you being a graduate of USF and now an accomplished actor, how has your craft evolved over the years?
Um, I think when I came into acting straight out of college, I really relied on just raw feeling and emotion. I never really understood the technicality of being a film actor. And then I think over the years, what I really learned to develop was my craft as a technician. There's the aspect that is the acting and the performing and the feeling, but then there's the technical components that come to kind of delivering things on time, which I really find a joy in, and I also learned a lot about as far as like being an asset to uh, my fellow filmmakers, like in every department. Trying to make sure that I arrive on time, trying to make sure that I'm prepared when I go into hair and makeup to make sure we can speed the process along, and making sure that I'm understanding and interpreting notes really well from the directors and from the camera crew to our DPs. I just think over the years, I've matched my natural, maybe raw understanding of what it meant to feel something to understanding the technicality of what it meant to deliver something. So I think over the years, I've definitely become a better technician of all aspects of the craft and trying to learn as much more as I go.
And with you becoming a better technician, you also studied directing at USF. So how has your work behind the camera influenced your work in front of it?
I think it's ever evolving. I only studied directing just because it was just a part of the electives that you had to take, and I just had a passion for understanding every aspect of the game. So it was just like, all right, well, this is something new. And over the years, I've developed a deeper passion for it. I always say that there's a difference between a director and a filmmaker, and I've worked with some really, really good filmmakers that I think know how to merge all elements of making a piece of art. Filmmakers care about the acting, they care about the color, they care about the makeup, they care about everything that goes into the process of telling a story. An artist when they're painting their palette. So I've found such an admiration for filmmakers, and I think going on that journey of discovery, I'm still harnessing that skill set. And over time, I hope to develop it in a way where I can also include myself in that category. But right now, I'm still learning from the greats, and figuring it out as I go.
And as a student of film and acting, do you feel as though you're always learning throughout your process of being in the industry?
Do I feel like what?
Do you feel like you're continuing to learn throughout your process of being in the industry?
Absolutely. I think, I've heard this quote several times, so I don't even remember who said it, but the quote was always be a student. You're always a student in life. You never stop learning, you never stop growing. Or if you stop learning, then you do stop growing. And not just as an actor, but as a human being, I have an aspiration to continue to grow, to be better than I was the day before, to be better than I am 5 years later. So I'm always a student. I feel like you can learn from anyone, anywhere, anything, from a conversation to an observation. Michael Caine has this book that he wrote called Acting in Film, and I quote it so much because he said, all great artists steal, so steal everything. And if you're going to steal from the best. So I don't ever stop being a student, and I don't ever stop learning, hopefully, because I think it only adds more to the toolbox to tell good stories and represent good characters.
Absolutely. And getting into your character, Caleb King, how does Caleb differ from characters you've portrayed in the
past? Caleb differs in many ways. I think Caleb for Sinqua was a great opportunity to embody so many different aspects of telling the story. He was heartfelt, he was deep, he was thoughtful. He also was very committed to his physical fitness. And over the course of this long, short journey that I've had, I've always had characters that were dedicated to one aspect of that. Maybe they were, heartfelt, maybe they were sensitive, maybe they were in shape, but I don't think they all embodied all aspects of it. I will say that Caleb, what I do appreciate the most about Caleb is that he speaks what's on his mind, and he kind of tells it like it is, and he doesn't hide behind things. And I think that's one difference that I can see from a lot of other characters is what you see is what you get with him. So I feel like a comparison between Caleb and Sinqua and the fact that what you see is what you get. And I try to kind of always walk that path of authenticity, and he does that consistently. And that's different than a lot of the guys that I've played thus far.
And with Caleb being this multidimensional character, how are you able to build those layers as an actor for this role?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? It's interesting because again, being a student, I steal from so many different places, and or I would say I try to add to the toolbox from so many different places, even interviews. And I remember an interview that I saw uh, from Denzel Washington where he was talking about there's no one method. You know, he was like, there's not. You know, everyone says like the method, or they call you a method actor, and Denzel was like, you know, there's no one method. Um, and I feel like that's the case. You know, I think that over the years of studying and studying different processes of acting, different methods of acting, you start to realize that they all kind of blend together. And in order to tell an authentic story, you may have to use different things to tell that story. So I think for Caleb, I just pulled from a lot of personal experiences, not so much specifically being in the military, but having to go through, you know, physical ailments, overcoming injuries, loss of relationships, friendships, you know, learning to be a better person because of bad mistakes. I think Caleb is very authentic in that. And so I just pulled a lot from personal experiences on this one just because it was like, okay, this some of it rings home.
And with this film, you star alongside triple threat Christina Milian and comedian Jake Farrell. What was it like being able to have them as co-stars?
It was amazing. You know, at the end of the day, like those are two people that not only as actors I got to work with, but also as friends, we got to build a bond and a relationship. And I think being able to work in a space where um, you trust the people that you're working with from a performance standpoint, you know they're going to come in and always want to deliver their best. It makes it easier on you because you don't have to try to overcompensate your performance to match something. You know, again, being a technician, you want to make sure you're giving as much as possible, but you never want the performance to fall flat or forced because you're in a situation where maybe you're not getting as much. And those two always will bring you something that you can easily react off of and tell a story. I mean, Christina, like you said, triple threat, but just you see from her years in the game, like, you know, she started so young and has built such a great career, and she's such a professional. At the end of the day, like, you know, what we came to know later is that Christina was pregnant at the time. What we came to know later is that she had her, you know, she had her beautiful baby and all of that. But I can honestly say, like, there was not one scene where she said, I need a break. There was not one scene where she said, I can't do this. Like, she was just a cavalier. And, you know, I think a lot of people can learn from that, you know, there's no diva in Christina. You know, so a lot of people that want to carry that diva, that woman did it all and did it all while carrying another person. So I can't speak enough about how great it was to work with her. Then my brother Jay, like he, you know, he came in and brought something nuanced and unique to every single take. And that's fun because it makes it lively, it makes it real. You know, improv is his jam and he's so spontaneous. And he would just bring little different flickers that kept the scene alive every time so that you could just create something new. Like I never, even watching the movie, you didn't know what take the director was going to pull because they all were good because Jay would give you something different every time on his end and then also for you to react to. So it was just a lot of fun.
And with Jay being a comedian, what was your funniest moment on set?
Oh man, every day with Jay was fun and funny. I mean, like, you know, it's funny because you forget that his career began with such a tidal wave of exposure because of his impersonation, because he brings so much more to the table as a talent that you forget that that's still something that's in the bag. And I remember there was our first scene together, all of us, was the scene where was a scene in the movie that brings us all together. I forget, I'm not going to say anything for the audience, but there's a scene in the movie that brings us all together in a very small space. And when you see the small space in the movie, you'll know exactly what scene I'm talking about. But in between takes, Jay would do all these impersonations back to back to back to back to back to back to back. And the craziest part about it is that he embodies the people. So if he does an Eddie Murphy impersonation, you get Eddie, Denzel, you get Will, you get Joe Biden, you get Trump, you get all these different people coming out in the embodiment of Jay Farrell. And then it's like, all right, back to set, and he can jump right back into it. So just because his mind is so creative, every day on set was funny and fun. You know what I mean? Like it really was like, I got to go watch him in a comedy show a couple of days ago, and it was fun. And I had to pay for that one. No, I didn't. He gave me tickets. He gave me tickets. I didn't have to pay, but I would have. But then I remember being on set and thinking like, this is a free comedy show that I don't have to pay for either. And I was happy, you know, that I didn't have to, you know, match what his tickets require even then.
And with Resort to Love really adding to the list of Black rom-coms that we have today, how does it feel to know that you're expanding the Black love stories that are being told?
I'm excited about that. I think, we came through such a trying time when it comes down to everything that's happened during the pandemic and everything that has happened with the elevation of the Black Lives Matter movement, from the trauma to the awareness, to the positivity and to the negativity that we've been exposed to. So to be a part of a film that can lift people's spirits, not make everything so heavy, make things joyous. I mean, this is the celebration. You go through the trials and the tribulations to be able to rejoice. And I hope, we had a summer last year where everyone was locked in and had to watch movies. And now we have a summer where people can be out, but I hope they enjoy the process and they see the joy that we had being able to be so blessed to be able to shoot this thing during a time when many people were out of work. For it to be a story of people of color going and celebrating, I just hope it's motivating to say, hey, listen, like, you're not bound by anyone's circumstances. You're not bound by anything that you think is oppressing you. You can find joy in any situation, as we did. And even to tie it into the story, Erica's overcoming and finding happiness throughout her journey. I'm happy to be a part of that. And I hope we continue to get stories that are historical, get stories that kind of like unfold and tell the story of our progressions, but also that lift us up. Everything doesn't need to be dark, and things can be lighthearted, but also motivating at the same time. So I'm happy to be a part of that.
Absolutely. And with this film really touching upon love of family, love of self, love of friends, and love of a romantic partner, what is the significance of having love being a part of our storytelling process?
Oh, I mean, I think love is everything at the end of the day. At the end of the day, money doesn't show up to your funeral, and nor do your cars, nor do your houses, but the people that love you and cared about you the most are the ones that are going to be there. So the people that get to write that eulogy are going to be the people that love you the most, and people that are going to speak on your behalf. So that's already the story in and of itself of why love is so important. But I think, at the end of the day, the most simplest quote, it's not where you go, it's who you go with. That's indicative of love as well. And it's so important to keep that in perspective and keep that in mind, because that's really all you have. At the end of the day, that's truly, truly all it is. And without that, life is empty.
Absolutely. And my final question for you is, what do you hope audiences will gain from watching Resort to Love?
I hope audiences gain a Netflix membership and they keep coming back and watching it over and over again. If you're stealing your streaming from someone else, get your own and watch it on your own so we get more viewers. That's what I hope. 190 countries times 2.
Well, thank you so much, Sinqua. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. I appreciate you.